You're listening to Every Day's a Saturday USMC Veteran Podcast.
Now introducing your host of Every Day's a Saturday USMC Veteran, the one-man show, Brian Roof.
What's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are having an amazing day out there. Hope it's not getting the best of you. I hope you're out there getting the best of it. Today's episode, we're going to go ahead and get right into it, and we're going to talk about Israel Keyes. Israel Keyes was born January 7th, 1978. He was an American serial killer, bank robber, burglar, arsonist, kidnapper, and sex offender. He murdered at least 3 people, is suspected of murdering between 11 and 20 people, and committed dozens of felonies, including armed robbery, arson, rape, and burglary across the United States from July 2001 to February 2012. While waiting trial, Keyes killed himself by slashing his wrist and hanging himself. Evidence left behind in his jail cell, including a suicide note, drawings of 11 skulls, a drawing of a Baphomet, and inscription of Corozal on the cell walls, all written otherwise slain with Keyes' blood, led the FBI to suspect Keyes murder at least 11 victims in total. He admitted to having committed violent crimes as early as 1996 with the aggravated sexual assault of a teenage girl in Oregon, in a series of meticulous crimes across multiple states, lasted until his capture in 2012. All right. So Israel Keyes, kind of different from a lot of the other ones that we had talked about previously. And this guy didn't really have a motive in terms of what he was going after or who he was looking for. We will go through this, you'll learn that he kind of just was very careless in terms of other people's lives, and including his own. So we're going to go ahead and get to know more about him, and we're going to go through his Israel Keyes' earlier years. Israel Keyes was born in Richmond, Utah on January 7th, 1978 to Heidi Keyes, Nee Hackinson, and John Jeffrey Jeff Keyes, October 4th, 1952. He was the second of 10 children born to a large family whose parents were members of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from Torrance, California. There, Keyes and his siblings were homeschooled until 1983. After leaving the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints faith, Keyes' father moved the family to a remote plot of land north of Colville, Washington, in Stevens County when Israel was 5 years old. Isolated from society, the Keyes family lived in a one-room cabin without electricity or running water, located on Rocky Creek Road. In Colville, the family attended services at a church called the Ark, which practiced white supremacist Christian identity ideology. Keyes later described the Ark as an Amish-like church environment. During this period of attending the Ark, the Keyes family befriended the neighboring family of Chevy Kehoe, who was later convicted for a 1996 triple murder. As a youth, Keyes admitted to shooting at neighbors' houses with his BB gun, starting fires in the woods, and breaking into houses for fun. He also occasionally broke into houses with another youth who subsequently avoided him after witnessing Keyes shoot an animal. On one occasion, Keyes stole several guns from his neighbor's residence and was forced to apologize by his parents after their discovery of his cache. By his teenage years, Keyes had become a skilled and proficient carpenter, building his first wooden cabin for his family at age 16. He also began working for a Colville contractor from 1995 to 1997. Around this time, Keyes kept a journal from early childhood, littered from Bible scriptures, documentary daily sins for which he felt shame, such as lusting after his girlfriends. Okay, so Israel's childhood wasn't completely, like as bad as some of the previous killers that we've talked about. Wasn't the greatest either. It does sound like they got into a lot of very radical religion, and he would, start to kind of get involved with, really like white supremacist type of things and things like that. So a little bit more radical religious. Also did sound like he started to kind of run into a little bit of some trouble. Not too, off from what a lot of kids do, shooting a BB gun and stuff like that. But starting to kill animals and getting the pleasure out of that kind of stuff, that is a little bit off in terms of what his mental state was. But we're going to go ahead and start getting into his teenage years, and he would eventually join the army. So we'll go ahead and listen into on that. In summer of 1997 or 1998, he has committed a sexual assault on a teenage girl who had been tubing with her friends down the Deschutes River in Maupin, Oregon. Although this was not his first sexual assault, he has admitted that he stalked her from a tree line before very violently sexually assaulting the girl, whom he estimated to be between 14 and 18 by knife point. Originally planning to murder her as a part of a satanic ritual, he has let her go in the river tube he had abducted her from. I was too timid. I wasn't violent enough, he told investigators. I made up my mind and I was never going to let that happen again. On July 9th, 1998, he is relocated and enlisted in the United States Army in the state of New York, where he served as a specialist in Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry Regiment. He passed a rigorous month-long preliminary course for United States Army Rangers training. He was stationed at Fort Lewis and Fort Hood. He also spent time abroad while stationed in Sinai, Egypt. He has befriended several soldiers, informing one of them that he would like to kill him. At Fort Lewis, he served on a mortar team in the 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry, 25th Infantry Division. Former Army friends like he have noted his quiet demeanor and habit of keeping to himself. On weekends, he was reported to drink heavy and consuming entire bottles of his favorite drink, Wild Turkey Bourbon. In July of 2001, he was honorably discharged, even though he had gotten himself in trouble for driving under the influence in Thurston County. In February 2001, he was able to get out honorably, and then he would move to Nia Bay, Washington. In 2007, Kia started a construction business in Alaska called Kia's Construction, while working as a handyman, contractor, and construction worker. So this isn't the first case where I've actually heard of multiple cases now that I've done this, where these guys commit some pretty bad crimes and are still able to enlist or get into the military. He had raped a girl while tubing, all that stuff. And even though he moved out of state and went to a different state, I still don't see, maybe the record keeping wasn't as good as it is now, because I couldn't imagine that anybody, even if you were to move to a different state, would be able to join the military with that on your record. I think they were not allowing people for lesser type of things while I was in. So I can't imagine why they would have let some of these guys that commit crimes. And even more so, these guys go into the military, end up committing crimes while they're in, and still get out honorably. So times have definitely changed, for sure. There's a lot of these guys that committed crimes. He's another one. Right as he was getting ready to get out, he gets himself into a DUI situation. But lucky for him, he was able to get out as without any crime being added to his punishments or anything like that. Nowadays, a lot of people would get like a general discharge or bad conduct discharge, those type of things. Or even a dishonorable discharge. So I'm just really shocked when it comes to hearing some of these guys in their services and what they're able to get away with and then get out. But during his time while he was in, he didn't commit any major crimes that are duly noted in terms of killing, raping, anything of the sort. The only thing that I found on record was the DUI. So let's go ahead and get more into his criminal history now. He has targeted random people all across the United States to avoid detection, with months of planning before he committed a particular crime. He specifically went for campgrounds and isolated locations. He claimed to only use guns when he had and preferred strangulation. This was due to the pleasure he derived from witnessing victims lose consciousness in the struggle. He claimed to not kill children or parents of children primarily because of his daughter, whom he feared finding out about him and crimes. However, police and FBI investigators were skeptical of this claim and suspected Kias of killing several teenagers and children. Kias did not admit to any murders during his 3 years in the United States Army, but did admit to twice attempting rapes of women, once with a prostitute while on leave in Egypt, and another time with a college student he met in Israel. He is believed to have resumed his killing spree in 2001 following his discharge. He has had ties to New York. He owned 10 acres and a cabin in town of Constable. He also confessed to committing bank robberies in New York and Texas. The FBI later confirmed that Kias robbed the Community Bank branch in Tupper Lake, New York in April 2009. He also told authorities that he burglarized a Texas home and set it on fire. FBI reports stated that Kias burglarized 20 to 30 homes across the United States and robbed several banks between 2001 and 2012. He's believed to have been responsible for as many as 11 deaths in the United States and potentially even more victims outside the country. Kias planned murders long ahead of time and took extraordinary action to avoid detection. Unlike most serial killers, he did not have a victim profile, saying he chose a victim randomly. On his murder trips, he kept his mobile phone turned off and paid for items with cash. He had no connection with any of the victims. For the Curio murders, Kias flew to Chicago, where he rented a car to drive 1,000 miles to Vermont. He then used the murder kit he had hidden 2 years earlier to perform the murders. So it doesn't seem like he exactly, like I said earlier in the show, didn't have a profile in terms of who he sought out to go kill. It just sounds like he was kind of sick and demented, and when he felt like killing someone, he went ahead and did so. And he was also into other different kinds of crimes, which aren't something that we kind of dealt with a lot of the other serial killers that we've dealt with. This guy, he's robbed banks. He's, raped, which we've had several of those, but and kill. But he's done a lot of other petty crimes in terms of just going around the different states and doing different things. But let's go ahead and get into and see how he ends up getting investigated and arrested. For Koning's murder, he has demanded ransom money, and police were able to track withdrawals from her account as he moved throughout the southwestern U.S. During that time, the police controversially refused to release surveillance video of Koning's abduction. Kias was arrested by Texas Highway Patrol Corporal Brian Henry and Texas Ranger Stephen Rayburn in the parking lot of the Colton Patch Cafe in Lufkin, Texas on the morning of March 13, 2012. Investigators had circulated a lookout bulletin for the suspect's car, which had been used at 8 p.m. to withdraw money from Koning's account. Kia's car matched this description. Kias was stopped after he drove slightly over the speed limit. The vehicle was searched after officers spotted cash stained with bright ink, indicating a die pack from a bank robbery. Koning's ATM card and cell phone were also discovered in Kia's car. Kias was subsequently extradited to Alaska, where he confessed to the Koning murder. He was represented by the federal public defender for Alaska, Rich Kurtner. Kias was indicted in the case, and his trial was scheduled to begin in March 2013. While incarcerated, Kias spoke to investigators several times over a period of months. He cooperated to an extent, confessing to some of his crimes and stated a wish to be executed within a year. Kias said he wanted to avoid publicity due to the negative attention his young daughter might face, but largely stopped cooperating after his identity was discussed in the media. On Wednesday, May 23, 2012, Kias attempted to escape during a routine hearing. He used wood shavings from a pencil to pick his cuffs. U.S. Marshals used a taser to subdue him. So he seemed to have a real soft spot for his daughter. Has she's been mentioned a couple of times in the videos. He seemed to care a lot about the things that she was going to learn about him, or start to hear about him, and that's why he was very seldom, I think, on his confessions in terms of who he killed, because as in one of the previous videos mentioned, that he had not killed kids, or adults of kids, parents of kids, primarily because he had a daughter and was very concerned, I think, about what she would eventually find out. That's why there's a lot of things that in terms of the confessions, a lot of people wouldn't find out, but he ends up, I think the whole guilt and everything gets to him so bad that he goes ahead and takes his own life. We'll go ahead and listen in on that. Being held in jail at the Anchorage Correctional Complex on suspicion of murder, he has managed to conceal a razor blade in his cell. He was not allowed razor blades as he was under security restrictions of using an electric razor under supervision. He died by suicide on December 2nd, 2012, via cutting his wrist and attempting strangulation. A suicide note found under his body consisted of an ode to murder, but offered no clues but other possible victims. In 2020, the FBI released the drawings of 11 skulls and one pentagram, which had been drawn in blood and found underneath his jail cell bed after his suicide. One of the drawings included the phrase, "We are one," written at the bottom. The FBI believes the number of skulls correlates with what are believed to be the number of his victims. All right, so as you guys heard, he went ahead and took his own life, wrote a little bit of a letter at the end there, and as they suspected, he left 11 schools, possibly, noting that he killed 11 people. But he ended up taking his life, and that's why this case ends up going pretty fast. There's not a whole, if he would have probably been alive, there would have been a lot of court proceedings going on. You know how it just takes a long time. It takes, forever for them to, they go through all the, make sure that the judgment is correct. And that way, if, he's put to death, that there's no mistake. So they didn't have to go through that whole drawn out trial process like we've heard in a lot of our previous cases that we've gone through. But anyhow, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this episode. I hope you guys are enjoying these criminal ones. If you guys can, please shoot me an email. Let me know what you guys are thinking about these true crime military edition episodes. If you guys are liking them, not liking them, I need to know, because that's going to kind of determine whether this is going to be something I'm going to go forward with, or just something that we tried out. So just let me know. Anyhow, if you guys can, make sure you check on your friends, your family. There's this number right here, 988, press 1. If you guys are experiencing anything that you feel like you can't deal with and you want to talk to someone discreetly, please reach out. You could also shoot me an email as well. But please don't do anything, that you can't reverse. But anyhow, hope you guys are having an amazing day out there. Don't let it kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time, we'll see y'all.